What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and you know, sometimes I just sit around in my office all day playing video games, but I also feel like there's like a special kind of pleasure to getting a little bit of the great outdoors, especially here in Texas, where every part of the landscape is downright gorgeous. But it's hard to just put video games down. I mean, honestly, I like to try and take them everywhere I can, so today I actually want to talk about some of my favorite things to game with on the go. These are my picks of the top 10 best Game Boy Advance games.
Number 10. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. This is one of those projects that initially when you see it almost appears to be a joke. After all, how do you turn a game as big and fun as THPS2 into a tiny little handheld, but somehow they really did pull it off. This has all the characters, the tricks, the maps, the challenges. It is completely the game, just turned into a totally different microscopic version. And that's why I like it. As somebody who's absolutely addicted to Tony Hawk, this was a great breath of fresh air to see something that wasn't a lazy port, and in fact was filled with so much love. Number 9. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. Everything else on this list, except for this game, are things that initially I got to try as a kid. I was lucky enough to grow up with a Game Boy Advance, and I played it every freaking day. But what's funny is, I somehow completely missed this. I'm not sure what happened, but I ended up rediscovering it as an adult, and getting a chance to play this with more mature eyes was such a special gift. It manages to merge my love of Mario with my passion for great RPGs into one just really sparkling little game. I actually really like the fact that they managed to make such good sprites and good art and still have some really deep combat systems. It's really not a game that tries to dumb down any aspect of it. They know that you are a mature person who can handle a game that's tough but also cutesy at once. Number 8. Castlevania Circle of the Moon. This game might be a little bit more controversial to put out here simply because I know that most people very much favor the sequels to it and not this one specifically, but I gotta say that Circle of the Moon really holds the largest place in my heart, not just because it's the first one I played, but mostly because I really enjoyed the boss design. It seemed like the fights in this were just a little bit tougher and required a little bit more of leveling up, and really trying to explore each of the different abilities. If you haven't tried it before, it's your typical Metroidvania with you trying to explore a giant castle and unlock skills and slowly progress further, but the biggest thing is the magic is stupendous. I really love this game because it's just one of those things where it really kind of revels in the glory of its own gameplay. It is a Castlevania that seems to be just distilled down to its very finest form. Number 7. Golden Sun. When I was a kiddo, unfortunately my family was very, very poor, and there was also this big problem with how we were all kind of split up. All my brothers and I all ended up living in different houses, and unfortunately my father just really didn't have a lot of cash. So what he would do a lot of times is actually save up money and buy me stuff when it was on sale, and that's actually how he ended up buying me both a Game Boy Advance, even though it happened to be pink, I didn't care, and also Golden Sun, and I got them for Christmas. And to this day, I can still just remember the immense love in my eyes as I got to open it up and see this game that was so different. It is a game that manages to just combine cool exploration, fantastic spells with the Jin system, cool summons, and also it has secret dungeons. This game blew me away, and its sequel even more so. It is really something that tries to be the ultimate essence of turn-based combat, allowing you to grind, level up, get stronger, find hidden skills, and continually try and switch things out and improve your party. And I love that. It's so cool to have a handheld RPG that doesn't mind taking 30, 40, or 50 hours to end up conquering, and for that, I still just look back with such fond memories. Number 6. Fire Emblem. This game has such a relatable story. You know, it's about a princess that gets lost and ends up trying to reclaim her kingdom. I mean, we've all been there, right? Well, okay, so it's not exactly relatable, but it is certainly very, very fun. Now, this game is very, very special and sets itself apart from a lot of other turn-based RPGs because it is strategic. What this means is that instead of being one where everybody just takes turns punching each other, instead, it is a tactical map. You actually have to choose where to move, how to attack, and every single one of your units is actually a specific hero. It makes it where you need to actually utilize each person's individual talents, both in battle and out of them. You end up growing to love each of the different characters and the role they play in the story, and you have to be very, very careful because if somebody ends up falling in the battlefield, they are gone forever. It's really an element that I'd never seen before that and absolutely blew my mind because it created a sense of cost for the first time. It really sort of inspired me to think of every person's importance and keys and skills as a real person. I like the fact that they managed to go that extra mile and say, hey, get good or die trying. Number 5. Boktai. Okay, I know that putting this in the video is going to be a little bit crazy because a lot of people just downright freaking hate this game, but to me, it is a project that deserves to be respected. So basically, this is a sneaking game on the Game Boy Advanced, but the big twist to it is that we are a vampire hunter, trying to creep into different crypts and slay a bunch of evil undead monsters. However, doing this is about more than just being skilled, it's about being outside. Yes, physically, you have to sit in the sunlight to play this game. There's a little sun detector on the top of the unit that actually catches the sun's rays and charges up your weapon, letting you kill different monsters. And I thought that this mechanic was so cool and so original. It basically makes it where not only do you end up getting sunburned hands, it's cool that it charges up. So you can play it at night and charge up during the day, and it makes it where you have to think about the game in a real life sense. It's something where I would actually look forward to the next sunrise so I could kill that next really difficult boss. Number 4. Pokemon FireRed. On the surface, this may appear to just be a very standard remake, right? It's just Pokemon Red again. But I don't consider that. Instead, this is what I would call a rework. The difference being that this is essentially a complete re-envisioning of the original Pokemon. Basically, you get to go through and catch the original monsters and find a bunch of gym leaders and progress through it, but at the end, there ends up being this additional remixed content. And what really kind of won me over about this is that it ends up bringing in a bunch of Pokemon from later generations. And this was cool to me because it sort of bridged the gap. To somebody like me who hadn't played every single Pokemon game at that point, it really sort of created this nice new zone where it's not quite old school, it's not quite new school, it's its own school. And for that, I really still look back and go, dang, they got it right. Number 3. The Legend of Zelda Minish Cap. There was this really strange era at the beginning of the early 2000s where a lot of people were talking about the death of 2D games, where everybody was actually extremely excited for the idea of every single game being a giant 3D open world experience. And so a lot of people, Nintendo included, were actually basically saying that there would never again be flat games. Top-down experiences were going the way of the dinosaurs. And then suddenly, they decided to release this. Now, in my opinion, Minish Cap was completely intended to be the very final 2D Zelda, and you can tell because it is just crammed full of every wacky idea that they clearly wanted to try. I mean, it has crazy shrinking, it has cool magic, it has all sorts of weird abilities, and of course, it tells a totally different origin story to Link himself, showing how he got his hat in the first place. It is something that shows a totally different direction on the Hero of Time, and beyond this, it is, in my opinion, one of the best retro bit style games ever made. It is so spectacular, it's so charming, and it's just so freaking Nintendo. Number 2. Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. There are very few games in my life that I ever actually waited outside of a store to buy, but this is actually one of them. So basically, this came out on a very windy day way back in the past, and I ended up getting out of school a little bit early and sprinting like 10 blocks to a GameStop, and when I got there, they told me, sorry man, we don't have the shipment yet. So I ended up just sitting outside the store for 3.5 hours until it came in so I could buy it, and then I walked all the way home with this thing in my Game Boy playing the heck out of it. And and instantly I was hooked. So this is obviously just a tactical RPG, much in the same vein as Advance Wars or Fire Emblem, but the biggest twist to this is the class system, where as you're playing this, you get to form your own team of mercenaries, but then you get to choose whether you want them to be ninjas or dragoons or time mages that can actually slow down the entire fabric of reality. And that's so cool. I like that this game just basically throws everything into the wind and says, okay, you make it up. You find your own path. You make your own adventure as long as you end up solving our problems. And also it has a very existential sense of dread to it. I don't want to spoil the story, but it has a lot of basically really big questions at the heart of it as to what it means to be happy and what it really means to be part of a world. Number 1. Metroid Fusion. Every single second of this game, from the opening start to the ending credits, is perfection, and I am being dead serious about that. This game starts off looking just like your standard Metroidvania, with giving you a couple powers, taking some stuff away, and then going, okay, you need to escape this planet alive. But from there, it actually manages to mix in so many crazy flavors that you never would have expected, like straight up horror. You are actually stalked by an evil version of yourself throughout it, and it is insane. Every single time you encounter it is genuinely terrifying, even though it's on such a tiny screen. But the biggest part is that this game actually manages to just power you up in the best way. Every time you unlock that next skill and conquer the next boss and soak up a little bit more of your original strength, it feels like you're regaining something that you deserve. You deserve to win, you deserve this fun, and you absolutely deserve to play a game as magnificent as Metroid Fusion. In fact, I'll straight up say that this is not only my favorite Game Boy Advance game, this is my favorite Metroid by far. And for that reason, I am awarding it my pick as the number 1 Game Boy Advance game.
Did your favorite game not make the list? Got an idea for a future top 10? Leave it in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. And yes, I almost fell in this river about 10 different times while filming this, and I have no regrets.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.